moving right along. So this manuscript is a manuscript on paper. And we talked about watermarks last time. So for this manuscript, I chose this sight unseen. I had not seen it until this morning because I knew that if I found a folio size book with watermarks, according to the catalog description, I would be likely to find a watermark right in the middle of the page. If you remember when we talked about, I think, was it just last week, folding and how the watermark moves depending on how the pages have been folded. And it was exactly right. So the best way to spot a watermark in a book like this is to look for blank pages at the end. And in fact, we have some. And in fact, can I light it from behind? Is that all right? Okay. So there it is. All right, let's zoom in. We practiced this. Can everybody see that? Yeah. Can everyone sort of see it? You have to say something because I can't really see you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in fact, I'm going to turn it around so that you can more easily discern what this is. Not that one. There we go. All right. So can anyone tell what this is supposed to be a watermark of? Any guesses?
Is it a frog?
Say again?
Is it a frog?
It's actually the head of an ox, believe it or not. So here are our horns. There are two horns there. There are the ears, eyes, and some nostrils. And then above it, just sort of decoratively, is this line with a little six-pointed star at the top. Everybody kind of make that out? So what you do with the watermark is, when you see one like this, you measure it. I've already done so. It's about 60 millimeters from nose to the top of the star. And you go to your watermark references and try to identify it. So I have grabbed some of those. So these are also online, and I'm going to put the link to the online resources on our resources page on the Canvas site in case you want to try this at home. But I actually prefer the old-fashioned book watermark references, don't you? Because you can browse through them really easily.
Right, and because a lot of these things, so I didn't think frog was far off. That thing looked.
It's true.
A lot of these you simply can't tell what they are, and so if you don't have a name for it, they're impossible to search online. Whereas this one, you can sort of go through and find, oh, that is a knight or an ox or.
Yeah, exactly. You're not even sure. Hold on, I just got to get another picture. I just love this so much. So sometimes you don't know what it is that it's supposed to be until you start browsing through. So in this case, I've actually brought two sort of standard reference sources. One of them is by Gerhard Picard, and it is the Wasserzeichen volumes. There are like 20 of them. This is the Vierfüßler volume, so four-footed beasts. And so if you look in here, you will find there are lots of, I'll turn it this way, lots of different four-footed beasts, but what we are actually looking for is an ox head. And if you sort of flip through here, oh, there they are. Now, unfortunately, Picard is actually not that great for ox heads. There are not very many of them, and none of them actually look like what we have. That's very disappointing. So instead, we go old school, and we go here to Mr. Beinecke, who did it first, and who has hundreds of ox heads to choose from. So I've already done this in advance. I think it's like a cooking show where you pop in the oven and you go, look, I made these in advance. Here we go. So we've got tons of ox heads with stars and nostrils and eyeballs. Now, it just so happens that if you go through and you start measuring and you start looking more carefully, the one that actually looks the most similar to what we have is, I want to say like like around here, maybe this one was very similar. But if you remember when I was talking about watermarks, you have to be really cautious because you should never ever say this is that watermark. You should always say it's similar to this watermark because watermarks change over the years because they take a lot of abuse in the frame, in the paper frame. And so they get rubbed, they get twisted, they get distorted, and they become eventually unrecognizable. So the best you can do is to say that watermark is similar to this watermark in Beinecke or some other watermark in Picard. And that then, I missed the whole point of this exercise, which was the date. So the watermark that I was showing you was found in a manuscript in Germany, I think in like 1460 something. So that's when that watermark was dated. If we go back to our friend here, it just so happens this manuscript is dated. So it's kind of a moot exercise because we already know when this manuscript was written. But let's take a look anyway. So this manuscript does have a date. It's right here. There it is in typical 15th century Hindu Arabic numerals 1454 or 1454, which is pretty close to the watermark that we found. So even though we already know that this manuscript, and it's German, and it's from the year 1454, you still want to track down the watermark to make sure there's nothing surprising about it. Like what if the watermark here was actually dated to 1622, right? Then you would go, well, no, wait a second, something is weird, and you would have to figure out what that weird thing was. Yes?
I have a question about the similar watermarks. If you miss the ox head with a similar looking one, are they by any means clustered, or do they come from all over the place and they just happen to look the same?
Oh no, thank you. They're not really clustered by place and date of origin, but they are clustered by what they look like. So what you might actually say then is the manuscript is similar to Beinecke, whatever this is, 14648 through 14653, and just hedge your bets rather than saying it's most similar to this or that. You give a range, again, for the sake of your reader. I would say as physical evidence, watermarks are important, but they're not nearly as important as everything else. It's just one more piece of evidence that you throw into your computer to help you determine when and where